Alright, so let's talk Cavalier. This one appeared in Xanthar's Guide to Everything. Despite the name, this is not, and I know everyone on YouTube says this is not meant to be just like a mounted fighter. This definitely has a lot of tanking potential, despite the fact that I don't actually think that it does it that well, because I think by the time that the tanking stuff really comes online for you, there's just so many other ways that you can get the mechanics that it's offering in a much better capacity. Now, people seem to like this whenever I did this in Samurai videos, so I'm going to actually do this up front. Where I would currently put Cavalier right now is actually going to be in the upper tier of C. I still think it's arguable. Some people are probably going to believe that it's up there probably with Champion. I actually think that a lot of the features can lead to some redundant builds that make it to where this one is actually just not great at doing what it wants to do. But we will go through the features and I'll kind of explain my reason for why I put it down here. Okay, so let's get into the Cavalier. So the archetypal Cavalier excels at mounted combat, usually born among the nobility and raised at court. A Cavalier is equally at home leading a cavalry charge or exchanging repartee at a state dinner. Cavaliers also learn how to guard those in their charge from harm, often serving as the protectors of their superiors and of the weak. Compelled to right wrongs or earn prestige, many of these fighters leave their lives of comfort to embark on glorious adventure. Here at 3rd level, you are going to get a pretty decent loadout. You're going to get a bonus proficiency, Born to the Saddle, and Unwavering Mark. With the bonus proficiency, it's going to be similar to what we saw with like the Samurai, with the exception of now you get animal handling in here as well, if you would so choose, or, you know, the language, yada, yada, yada. So I marked this one as purple. I mostly think that this is probably going to be stronger for you to pick up either some of the skill proficiencies that aren't given to fighter, or some of the purple ones, the more common ones that you can get. And then I guess if you went total skill monkey, you can get an additional language if you want. Now, the Born to the Saddle feature, I marked this one as blue for what I feel is a fairly obvious reason. If mounted combat is not featured heavily in the campaign, then, like, I don't really know that this feature is going to do much of anything for you. Goes beyond just the idea of, like, are there horses in the world? This is like, are you going to be fighting on a horse, right? So starting at 3rd level, your mastery as a rider becomes apparent. You have advantage on saving throws made to avoid falling off your mount. If you fall off your mount and descend no more than 10 feet, you can land on your feet if you're not incapacitated. Finally, mounting or dismounting a creature costs you only 5 feet of movement rather than half your speed. So, like, classic dungeon crawls, this isn't really going to come up much at all. It just, probably not. However, out in the wilds, and maybe if mass warfare, your table has found some mass warfare rules that they really, really like, then maybe, you know, this one could come into play. For the most part, though, Born to the Saddle, I marked as a blue because I think that at the majority of D&D tables that I have either DM'd for or played at, this just, I don't really know that I've seen much of any mounted combat come up. Like, I've tried to code it into the campaign, right? Goblins riding wargs or whatever. I've tried giving the party owlbears to see, like, will they, you know, do they want to engage with mounted combat? I just don't really see a whole lot of players really doing that, and maybe it's just not the power fantasy they're expecting, but, you know, either way, this is overcoming some of the detriments to, like, mounted combat, where, like, if you aren't on a mount, this is just a nothing feature. If you are on a mount, cool, you've got something that's making it to where you're more secure up on your mount, I guess. Yeah, it's tricky. Unwavering Mark, I've given this one a purple. I actually like this one quite a bit, and we are seeing the tank identity of the Cavalier kick on right here. Starting at 3rd level, you can menace your foes, foiling their attacks and punishing them for harming others. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can mark the creature until the end of your next turn. This effect ends early if you're incapacitated, or you die, or if somebody else marks the creature. While it is within 5 feet of you, a creature marked by you has disadvantage on any attack roll that doesn't target you. This is a very, very nice use of this feature right here. The intended AI of this is supposed to be that the other creatures are, like, disincentivized from attacking your allies, right? Now, if you're playing with, like, the loadout of AI that Keith Amon would give you, and the monsters know what they're doing, you should go check this one out, you would see that this feature actually seems like about the hardest taunt aggro that we could possibly reasonably get for D&D 5e, at least within the official core books, right? So moving on from there, in addition, if a creature marked by you deals damage to anyone other than you, you can make a special melee weapon attack against the marked creature as a bonus action on your next turn. You have advantage on the attack roll. and if it hits, the attack's weapon deals extra damage to the target equal to half your fighter level. Regardless of the number of creatures you mark, you can make this special attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier. So you can only use the bonus action attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier here. However, you can mark creatures right here an unlimited number of times. Okay, so there's at least that. Now, the restriction that happens in here, you are getting the uses back when you finish a long rest. But the restriction that's happening right in here, while it's within 5 feet of you, if you are going Dex Fighter, it's just not a great idea to go with a Cavalier. This is pretty much strictly reserved for Strength Fighters here. Most of the reason you're going with this is because you want to be the heavy frontline tank, right? So if you're going with long range and you're thinking, yeah, this is going to be the mounted combat, I can fire from the horse, whatever, this just ain't it. Now, this is all fairly decent. I do think what they could have done here, I think that they blew some power budget on something that really just was not necessary for the core identity of the combat loop going on. This whole additional paragraph right here, man, I think that this could have been some lockdown. I just don't really think that this was super necessary compared to everything else that this one's going to get. Coming up this next level, if you are trying to build into a martial tank, you would be able to pick up a feat. I mean, you know, at tables that don't have feats, which, like, come on, let's be real. That's like maybe 5% of tables, maybe. The optional feats rule is just kind of universally embraced now as what's official, okay? So the reason why Fighter is getting so many ability score improvements, and this one that's coming up next level, is because you are very much intended to take more feats as a fighter. The feats are supposed to inform what you're doing in combat, right? Now, if you're just going straight ability score improvements with a fighter, then, like, you're honestly just missing out. You are. Now, the thing with this, there are other feats that are meant to evoke the tank playstyle that for some reason they decided to just code it into the fighter, like Cavalier, right? Because of that, some of the clear power that you would be getting out of taking feats in a class that is intended to take feats can be redundant and can lead to a very bad build. Some people espouse the philosophy that, like, build your character however you want to. One of the things that can make for some real feel-bads, and if there was a way to quote-unquote build a bad character in D&D, it's just wasting some of the levels that you got in getting redundant features like this. Unwavering Mark kicks on here at 3rd level. As we keep leveling up, we're going to get Warding Maneuver at 7th. So at 7th level, you learn to fend off strikes directed at you, your mount, or other creatures nearby. If you or a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can roll 1d8 as a reaction if you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield. Roll the die and add the number rolled to the target's AC against that attack. If the attack still hits, the target has resistance to the attack's damage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, minimum of once, and regain all extended uses of it when you finish a long rest. This is one of the very few times we're actually seeing a subclass get uses based off of 2 separate modifiers happening in here. No, I mean, it's not that this is incredibly terrible, but I guess maybe they were trying to push you not to go with a feat so that they can make the 10th level worth it. Yeah. But this right here, rolling 1d8 as a reaction to do this thing, this is a generally pretty great effect, except for the fact that this is on a subclass that if you're only getting 1 reaction, this is just super going to get bogged down here, especially if you did go and pick up the feats that are very much intended for this playstyle. While this is a good feature, I will say this comes with a caveat of, like, God, like, your reaction's getting bogged down. I'm actually thinking that this feature may not kind of be worth it if you want to do the lockdown, but, like, if one of your buddies is hit by a ranged weapon attack, you can potentially, you know, block out some of the damage, which I guess I like the flexibility in that. But it would also only be against attacks, right? Which does qualify for spell attacks, so you can grant the resistance to the damage dealt by the spell. Yeah, I think that this is in general a really good feature. But if I'm being entirely honest, I think that this is the kind of thing I would have rather had at 3rd level. This feels so much more tank and support. Yeah, so Warding Maneuver. This one is actually about to get pretty clunky here. It is for a different effect that you would be using this reaction for. I do recognize that, but, like, hold the line. I feel like at this point, this is so remarkably bad. Because the core thing that you're going to want to be doing with this is taking the Sentinel feat. You want the Sentinel feat so early. That is a core expectation of this playstyle right here. For this to be the thing that you get at 10th level and not at 3rd? So, hold the line. At 10th level, you become a master of locking down your enemies. Creatures provoke an opportunity attack from you when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. And if you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the target's speed is reduced to 0 until the end of the current turn. This is generally a pretty great mechanic right here. This is too late for this to be coming on. Absolutely too late. By this time, Fighter has had access to, let's see here, 1, 2, 3 separate feats that they can potentially pick up. Now, and I know people are going to say, well, what about tables that don't play with feats? As I said earlier, come on, that's not enough tables to really account for. This happening at 10th level is just entirely too late for something that is the core expectation to kick on. If you picked up Sentinel earlier, I really hope your DM is going to just let you swap it out for something else, because by this point, yeah. By this point, yeah, DMs, if you had a Cavalier that made it all the way to 10th level, and they picked up Sentinel earlier on, please, let them swap that feat out. Now, Ferocious Charger here at 15th level, you can run down your foes whether you're mounted or not. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line right before attacking a creature, and you hit it with the attack, that target must succeed on a strength saving throw, DC equals, strength mod, or be knocked prone. You can use this feature only once on each of your turns. The best use of this is with javelins. So, you run up, throw it, hit the thing, knock it out of the air. Okay, in that case, maybe this is actually kind of decent. You can use this feature only once on each of your turns. Meh. Here at 15th level, way underwhelming for this to kick on. Like, let's just do a comparison, okay? Because this is my upper echelon of what like a 15th level fighter should feel like. Rapid Strike. If you take the attack action on your turn and you have advantage on an attack roll against one of the targets, you can forgo the advantage for that roll to make an additional weapon attack against that target as a part of the same action. You can do so no more than once per turn, right? Champion. Your weapon attacks score a critical hit on a roll of 18 or 20. I just don't really see I don't really see the value in this coming on this late. I guess the fact that like this isn't really restricted to size. If you run and hit the thing, then like you can knock it prone. It's not like there's an insane amount of creatures that are immune to being knocked prone. I just don't really get why this is online here at 15th level. I might even react differently to this if it was available at 10th. Yeah, and like here's another thing, right? Tireless Spirit for Samurais kicking on at 10th. This is where they're getting their reliability of where like, here's your core thing, you can keep using it all throughout combat. I'm just looking at some other ones. Like, if you look at Arcane Archer, they don't get their reliable thing that kicks back online when you roll initiative. They get it at 15th level. Yeah, like Eldritch Knight is getting like really nice once per combat, then eventually twice per combat teleportation, freebie Misty Step essentially. I don't know. I guess I will say that Trip Attack, we do value that pretty highly, and it still has some restrictions in here. Oh god, I guess Cavalier has like a more souped up version of it. I just don't really think that this is a fantastic feature to be getting this late. Vigilant Defender. Starting at 18th level, you respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. In combat, you get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except your turn. You can use a special reaction only to make an opportunity attack, and you can't use it on the same turn that you take your normal reaction. So, I think that this is a very strong feature. In fact, whenever I designed the Vanguard, I was looking at things like this as, yep, this is the way that we're going to make healing work. This is the way that we can make tank work. This comes online significantly too late on a subclass whose reaction is super bogged down. I mean, reaction right up here, reaction right in here, just like, oh god. I would have hoped that the reliability feature, like we saw with just about every other fighter, should have kicked on at 15th level, because let's be real here, this is a reliability feature. You need the flexibility on your turn to be able to or during the round rather, to be able to do something like this. This is not capstone worthy. It's just really not. That is why I think that Cavalier suffers I don't know, like, it's either here or here. I would definitely say that the Cavalier is probably above the Banneret. I honestly think that I would rather play a champion than play a Cavalier because it just seems like all these features are kicking online way too late. Way too late. By the time it seems like you pick up a lot of these, they just pretty much lose relevance in the tier of play that you're in. It's super unfortunate. I've always wanted a tank. That's why I made my Vanguard class that, hey, you can go pick up over on my Shopify. But anyways, that's going to be it for this one. Let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. I want to throw a huge shout out to my Patreon sponsors. Thank you all so much for helping me keep the lights on around here and coffee in my blood. You all are absolute heroes. And hey, thank you all so much for being here. I hope you all are staying safe, staying healthy, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.